Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today we'll be taking this lecture number two of operating system with the second topic. In the last lecture, I have already told you and I have already introduced what exactly is operating system. And together with this, we have seen that there are some basic functions of operating system. What are those basic functions and what exactly are the objectives of operating system? We have already seen this in the last lecture, and I've told you that there are various domains in which your operating system is serving particularly your system, and there are major tasks that your operating system does to the system itself, right? Then we have seen that there are layers of computers, and on which layer your operating system is residing and how it is making interface with the user and the computer hardware. So now, going further, we'll just see in this lecture, we'll be seeing that how your operating system is managing the storage. Because see, one of the major tasks of your operating system is to manage the storage or manage the memory of your computer system. So how your operating system is managing this, particularly your memory, this is seen in this lecture. So we are going to see various arrangements of lectures here, right? So as you can see here, this is called storage structure of operating system. So as we people are already aware, we already know this thing that there are physical storage, like we have magnetic disk, we have RAID tertiary storage, we have files. A lot of things are there in operating system which helps out in storing and managing our files. So let us first of all understand that we basically want the programs and data to reside in the main memory permanently, right? So why do we need to have the storage or memory? Obviously, just because our data and whatever our programs are in the computer system, they reside in the memory. And at times, most of the times, exactly we say that the data and the programs reside in our memory for permanent type, right? So see, this arrangement is actually usually not possible for the following two reasons. I'll be telling you the two reasons that why it is not possible that the data and programs must reside permanently in your system. So the reasons are that if we talk about the main memory, let's say, for a while, just assume this thing that your computer system does not have a secondary memory. Now in that case, you are left out with a single memory, that is your primary or the main memory. Now if you want to save your data, or let's say any kind of program in your, or any kind of information in your main memory, why is it not possible to save it there? So it is, for the first reason, it is the main memory is actually very small to store all these programs permanently, right? We already know this thing that RAM is always very small, in which we cannot store the data permanently just because of the size, because the size of your RAM is very small. And we know that each and every program or a process or a data, if we want to execute it, it executes in the main memory. So it is not possible every time that we can store the data in it permanently. Now, this is the very first reason of the size. And the second reason is obvious, that the memory, the primary memory or the main memory, is volatile in nature. You already know what is volatile. Obviously, in case of any power cut, your content will go off, right? So these are the two major reasons that we cannot rely upon our primary memory to store the data permanently. So we have already seen, you people have already studied this particular topic and this concept. You already know from your school days that we always divide the storage types or the storage devices in the computer system in two basic types. Like one is the volatile storage and another one is called the non-volatile storage. So volatile storage is the one which loses its content when the power of the device is removed. And similarly, if you talk about non-volatile storage, it does not lose its contents when the power is removed. So it holds all the data permanently. So the example we have seen, like the secondary storage. So these are the two basic differentiations of the memory that we have seen. So Now, if we come over to the secondary memory part or the secondary storage part, it is used as an extension of your main memory. Why? Because we have seen two reasons that we cannot, afford to have primary memory to store our permanent data into it, because of the size and because of the volatile nature of the memory. So secondary storage devices are the ones which can hold your data and information permanently. Now, storage devices, when we talk about the secondary storage, they consist of very many types of devices. Like we have registers, we have cache memory, we have electronic disc, we have magnetic disc, optical disc are there, magnetic tapes are there. So there are a lot of variety of the storage devices that we can use. We are using the data cards. In fact, we are using pen drives. All these things contribute to your storage devices. Then each storage system basically provides the basic system of storing data and of holding the data until it is retrieved at a later time. Now, all the storage devices that you are using will differ in their speed, in their cost, and in their volatility, right? And the most common secondary storage device that we people use is actually a magnetic disk, right? Which provides storage for both the programs and for the data. So this is one thing, and gradually we'll be seeing all these devices here. Now, first of all, when we talk about the physical storage media, here, this is the classification. We'll be doing it one by one. Now, how do we classify them? These are some of the features. Like if we talk about physical storage media, the first point says that speed with which data can be accessed. So it has got a good speed. Like if you want to retrieve some data from the secondary memory, we can retrieve it, or we can patch it, we can save it. So it has got a good speed that you can rely on. Then the cost per unit of data. So the cost per unit of data, in fact, this is also a point that we can use for. Then just a minute. So see, every device has got its own feature. Maybe it is possible that some of the devices are expensive in nature, but their speed is good. Like if you take example of cache memory, we can say that cache memory is expensive in nature, but it is very speedy memory. However, it is very small. Even in that also, we cannot think of storing so many data, but still it can be taken up to manage the things and manage the retrieval process from the storage, secondary storage, to the primary storage. So there are at times different physical storage medias that we can use. I hope the PPT is visible to all of you, right? So now if we see this thing that this physical storage media, we can differentiate into two, again, into different types. They can be volatile in nature and they can be non-volatile in nature. I've already told you what is the basic difference between the two. Then these are some of the examples of physical storage media that we have. The first one is the cache memory, which I already told you that it is high in speed. It is a very speedy memory, but if we see, this is expensive in nature, right? So that is why, and even the size of this memory is very small. So that is why we cannot afford to have so many cache memories in our system. There is a single cache memory which we take. It is of small size. It is speedy in nature, but this is very expensive. Now the next physical storage media that we have is the main memory. So main memory, if we talk about, it is fast in nature, fast accessing it can do. Obviously, we know this thing that primary memory is the one which is executing all the things on your system. So obviously, it has to be fast, and it has to be efficient in nature. So this is one thing, but on the same time, it is actually too small. The size is not just enough to store the data and the information permanently. So this is one thing that we have. Then you can see here the capacities that we can have, like it could be of few gigabytes. We have seen up to 8 GB max or 16 GB max. We have seen this RAM. So this is one point. And another feature which it has is the volatility that it is having. So the main memory is volatile in nature. That is why we cannot rely on this memory. So this is again a disadvantage of your main memory, that it is too small. However, it is very fast, but we cannot rely on it as it is, volatile in nature also. Now, the next physical storage media that we have is called the flash memory, right? We all know what is a flash memory. Now, in this case, what happens is, see, here your data can survive power failure. Obviously, it is, you can rely upon, and the data can be taken up to any place. Like, it provides portability. Obviously, flash memory always provides a portability to your data. You can, make your programs, and you can do anything on a particular system. You can then store the data into the flash memory, and you can take it anywhere from one system to another. So even this flash memory is providing a portability to your system as well, right? So it can support only limited number of writing or erasing cycles, which is given, like 10K to 1M is the possible range that it allows. Then erasing of memory has to be done to an entire bank of memory. Like, if you want to format the whole flash memory, then the whole data will be removed. So these are some of the demerits that we can see in physical memory, or in flash memory especially. So these are some of the things. And one more thing about this is that it is not very much expensive, as compared to cache memory and all. It is having less prices, so even this is affordable one, we can use it, right? And they are fit into our USB keys, so even that is an add-on advantage with the flash memories. Now, next, if we talk about the physical storage memory, it is the magnetic disk. So when we talk about magnetic disk, we can see that data is stored on the spinning disk. There is a spinning disk on which the data is read or write on. Then there is a primary medium for the long-term storage of data, which typically stores entire database. Magnetic disk, you people have already seen the examples, like CDs are there and DVDs are there. Then data must be moved from disk to main memory for access and written back for the storage. Obviously, as I have told you earlier also, that for executing anything, whichever things are there on your disk, whichever things are there on the auxiliary disk, you have to always load it back on the main memory to run it, right? And this is not a case, we haven't heard such kind of thing where you are executing something which is already stored in your secondary memory. So it is a very common thing that if you want to execute something, whether it is on your magnetic disk or it is on your any kind of secondary storage device, you have to load it back on the primary memory to get it executed. So this is a point uh, that we need to understand here, right? Now, the next part is the optical storage. So this is again a physical storage media, optical storage, where we have seen CDs, DVDs, and they come in various sizes. We have various sizes of these CDs and DVDs. Even a Blu-ray disc is there, which we have seen, which consists of a too large memory which it can hold in the data, right? So the important point here is that this optical storage is basically non-volatile in nature. Non-volatility means, obviously, if you are storing something into this particular device, then the data will be stored permanently. Secondly, it provides a portability to the system. Like, portability in the sense that, obviously, if you are storing something into this CD or DVD, this is a portable thing. You can make your DVD, you can create your data in one system, and then if you want to load it in another system or run it into another system, you can just take your drive, you can just take your disk, and you can execute it anywhere. So this is the beauty of optical storage devices. Now, these are the popular forms. CD-ROM, we have seen CD-ROMs, DVDs, Blu-ray disc. So as you can see here from the example itself, it is written, the sizes are written over there. So in comparison, if you see CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray disc, the Blu-ray disc has got the largest capacity to store your data permanently. And even You people have used it practically. You people have used DVDs, you people have used CDs. There are different types of versions of it. There are some CDs which cannot be rewritten, right? And there are some of the CDs which are rewritable in the forms. You can rewrite again and again. You can erase the data which are stored on it, and at times if you want to renew it or if you want to rewrite something onto it, even that is possible. So there are various versions of optical storage which are used. However, let me tell you, even you people know this thing, that currently, if we talk about this particular time, these CDs and DVDs are not, into the current trends, because we are already into a phase where we people are using different forms of memory, like the flash memories are there. We are onto the USB memory, USB drives are there. So this has become, bit obsolete in current times. So this is one thing that we can use for the storage media other than the primary memory. Now, this next physical storage media that we have is the tape storage. Now, tape storage, when we talk about, again, its feature says that it is non-volatile in nature. Non-volatile, again, the same thing, that your contents will not vanish in case power goes off, right? Then it is used primarily for backup purposes. If you want to back up, or if you want to, save your data permanently, in that case, tape storages are used. Then one important thing about this tape storage, or you say that you can say that it is a demerit of tape storage, that it is sequentially accessing the device. Sequentially accessing means that, it cannot use such kind of links where pointers are used. Pointers means that it always allows to store the data in a sequential manner. And we have seen, you people have already seen a concept in data structures where, when we compare the sequential or the non-sequential, like the data structures, if we compare, one is linear in nature and one is non-linear in nature, you have already seen this concept that obviously this linear data structure is, very slow in comparison to them. Why? Because, when you are storing some kind of data in a sequential manner, let's say you have stored a data on 5,000 something address, okay, and now you want to access, you want to fetch it later on. So what will happen in that case? You cannot directly jump to that data. You cannot directly skip those 5,000 spaces. You need to reach out to your data one by one by accessing each and every content in between. So this makes your system very slow. This makes your retrieval process or fetching process very slow. This is the reason that it is slow in nature, because it allows only sequential access. Whereas in case of non-sequential access, we always have the address of a particular location. So instead of, moving on one to one point, we can directly access a particular address and we can just directly jump over the data wherever it is stored. So this is the major disadvantage that tape storage has, because of the sequentially accessing mode it has, right? Now, the third characteristic that you see here is of the high capacity, right? It can store a whole lot of data. Even I should say that it can store a voluminous data, because it has got, three up till 300 GB of memory it can have. So a huge amount of data can be stored on it. This is one important advantage that your tape devices are providing. Now, again, the next feature that we can see is that the tape can be removed from the drive. If you want to remove the tape, you can even, remove the tape. So storage cost in comparison to the other physical storage medias that we have seen is, very cheaper. Then there are hundreds of terabytes of, this physical storage media is available. This tape drive is available in so much capacity. It has got the variations of sizes are there, so you can choose according to the need of your system, right? So this is all about the tape storage. Then we come over to the important part here. Now, this one is important, and with respect to your examinations as well. Do remember this. This is called the storage hierarchy, right? And I'll be telling you how we are, moving. This storage hierarchy has got two important meanings into it. First, you see this diagram, how you are seeing it. The very first layer of this hierarchy is the cache memory that you are seeing. Then we have the main memory, the flash memory, the magnetic disk, the optical disk, and the magnetic tapes. So here you are seeing this hierarchy. Just look on this hierarchy first, and then I'm going to tell you about the storage hierarchy here. Now, if you see this hierarchy, all the storage devices are actually arranged according to their speed and their cost, right? We have arranged these layers according to their speed and cost. So the higher levels, whatever the higher levels you are seeing, like the cache memory you are seeing here, see here, the cache memory, the main memory, even you see this hierarchy is actually not complete. It should have one more option and one more layer should be there. On to the top of this cache memory, there exists a register part. Registers are considered to be very speedy storage memory. However, they are very less on size, but they are, the most speedy memory that we have in your computer. We have in our computer system. So on the top of this cache memory, there should be registers also. However, it is not mentioned here, but still. So these are according to their sizes and their speedy nature. So the higher levels that you are seeing here, like this cache memory, main memory, they are expensive, but at the same time they are fast in nature. And as we move down the hierarchy, the cost per bit generally decreases in this case, right? Whereas if you move down, the access time is generally increasing. So here you see, obviously access time is increasing. If you go down to this hierarchy, the access time is increasing. Why access time is increasing? Because the speed is decreasing here. If you go down, the speed will decrease. Speed means obviously the access time is slow. It will access slowly. That is why your speed is decreasing and access time is increasing. However, going down will decrease the amount or decrease the price of the devices that we have. And it is vice versa. Oppositely, if you move above, if you move up to the hierarchy, what will happen? Every device will be expensive, but they will be highly speedy. The speed will increase if you move up on the hierarchy, right? Then the accessing time will decrease in such case. If you move up, the accessing time will decrease. Why it will decrease? Because the speed will increase in this case. Cache memory has got a very good speed. If it would have been registers here, even the registers are of high speed, so the access time will automatically decrease in this case. So this is basically the hierarchy here. Now, see the storage system here that you are seeing above, like the magnetic disk or the electronic disk, they are actually volatile in nature, right? Now, we talk about an electronic disk. It can be either designed to be either volatile or it could be non-volatile. Now, during normal operation, basically the electronic disk actually stores the data in the large DRAM array, right? And this DRAM array is volatile in nature. But there are many electronic devices which contains a hidden magnetic hard disk and a battery for backup power, right? Now, if the external power is interrupted in this case, the electronic disk controller copies the data from the RAM to the magnetic disk. And you see, when the external power is restored after some time, the controller copies this data back into the RAM. So this is how it manages. So basically, the design of a complete memory system must balance all these factors, like the data volatility, then the speed, the accessing time. All these things should be managed by the computer memory system. Now, it must actually use only as much expensive memory as necessary while providing, as much as inexpensive and non-volatile memory if possible. Because if you'll have all the expensive memories in your system, obviously it will, make your system unaffordable. So even we cannot take such kind of chances. Then because there are some expensive but highly speedy memory like cache memory is there, we can use that. Caches can be installed to improve the performance where a large access time or transfer rate disparity exists between the two components. So here this is the hierarchy system that we use in the computer memory. So accordingly this can be used. So you have to remember this hierarchy. It is one of the important questions regarding your exams. It can come to show the hierarchy on the basis of maybe on the access time, the speed, or the price. So these two or three parameters are there on which this hierarchy has made. So we have already seen all these things. So the hierarchy is actually divided in these kind of three classification. One is the primary storage, which is the fastest media, but it is volatile in nature, like the cache memory and the main memory. They are considered to be the primary storage, where they are speedy in nature, but at the same time, they are volatile in nature as well. Secondly, we have the secondary storage, and in the secondary storage, they are non-volatile, but they are not very much speedy, but they are not very slow as well. Then there are tertiary memory as well. Tertiary memory is there. Just a moment. So as you can see here, tertiary memory is the lowest level in hierarchy. It is non-volatile in nature, but obviously it has got a very slow access time. So this is the magnetic tape and the operating storage, or sorry, this optical devices. They are actually called tertiary storage, and the other name which is given to them is the offline storage. So do remember that tertiary storage is also known as offline storage, and the examples of these two things are magnetic tape and optical storage. Similarly, secondary storage is also called online storage. Do remember this point. If you want to take the screenshot, please take the screenshot of this. This is important regarding or with respect to your examinations, right? So online storage is flash memory or the magnetic disk, and offline storage is the magnetic tape and the optical storage, right? So I hope this one is clear to you. Next is this the magnetic hard disk mechanism. However, this is not in your syllabus, so I'm not going to cover this up. If you want to take this screenshot of this particular slide, you can take it to understand how your magnetic disk is working out. So it has given a very in-depth study of all the storage devices, but as there is nothing given in your syllabus. So if you want, it is all upon you. If you want to willingly do or study about all these things, you can go through it. Otherwise, it is not given. You just only need to see the storage structure, how the structures are created, how the hierarchy is maintained in the operating system. That is the only thing which is required here. And if we talk about this file organization, we have a separate chapter of file organization. Fifth unit is dedicated to the file organization of your syllabus. So in the fifth unit, we are going to see how operating system manages your files. So let us just come to the summary part here. I'm just concluding all the things, and then I'll share some MCQs with you to just self-assess yourself that whatever things you know or whatever things we have done right now, that will help you out, right? So let me just conclude that we have seen that the computer storage consists of many computer and storing components that are used to store the data, and it is traditionally divided into, we have seen, like the primary storage, the secondary storage, and the tertiary storage. So if we talk about the primary storage, we have seen that it is also called the main memory, or it is the memory which is directly accessible to the CPU. The CPU can directly access this primary memory. So these are the memories which are volatile in nature as well. Like we have random access memory, we have seen. Then we have ROM, which is read-only memory. It cannot be changed, and it can only be read as required. So this is one thing. Then RAM, if we talk about, you people already know what is RAM. All the things if you want to execute, that can be executed in the RAM itself, and it is volatile in nature. So it is quite expensive also. If we say RAM, about the RAM, it is a speedy, but at times it is expensive in nature. Then we have seen cache memory in simple in this case. Then we have seen that cache memory is very speedy in nature. It is having a very fast access time, but at the same time it is very expensive. So it is even small in size. So we cannot have it in abundance. Like cache is used to store the data and the instructions that are frequently required by the central processing unit. So it doesn't have to search them in the main memory as well, right? So this is very small memory and it is very fast in nature. Then we have seen secondary storage. Now in secondary storage, or let's say we can call it external storage as well. So it is not actually directly accessible by your CPU. CPU cannot directly access secondary storage. It can do it with the primary memory. So the data from the secondary storage needs to be brought into the physical memory or the primary memory storage before the CPU can see it practically, right? Now this storage can have a large amount of data or voluminous data can be stored over it. So this secondary storage consists of very many auxiliary devices. Like we can have hard disk. We already know HDDs are there, which are famously used as secondary storage devices. So even they are of very much capacity. You can store a whole lot of data into it. Then there are USB devices. There are floppy disks. However, floppy disks are not used in today's time, but still they were at the time they were used. When floppy disks were in trends. Right now, floppy disks have become a very obsolete part. Then we have memory cards as well. They are also considered as the secondary storage. So it has got the similar functionality to your flash drive, but they are actually in card shape, and it can easily plug into a port, and it can be removed after your work is done. So this is actually giving the portability to the data. Then you can have flash drives as well, which is also called like pen drives, right? And it helps in easy transportation of your data from one system to another. And one important point here is that they are very compact in nature. That is why uh, this is very convenient. You can take up to your data. You can move your data along with you, right? So even this is advantage with the flash drives that we have. Then we can have CD-ROMs. This is compact disk read-only memory that we have, and it is a shiny metal disk of silver color, and it is already pre-recorded. And the data, you can at times you can alter it, and at times it is a rewritable CDs. Then even you can erase the data from it, and again you can write onto it. So this is usually a capacity of like 700 MBs. So even this can be used. Then comes the tertiary storage that we have talked about. This provides a third level of storage where most of the rarely used data is archived in tertiary storage, as it is even slower than primary storage. So the tertiary storage stores actually a large amount of data that is handled and retrieved by the machines. So there are different tertiary storage, like we have tape libraries. These may contain one or more tape drives. There could be a barcode reader for the tapes, and there could be a robot to load the tapes. Now the capacity of these libraries basically is more than 1,000 times that of a hard drives, and so they are useful for storing the voluminous data. Then in this tertiary storage, we have optical jukeboxes also. So these are the storage devices that can handle optical disk, and they can provide tertiary storage ranging from terabytes to petabytes. So it has got a very large capacity that you can use, and they can also be called as optical disk libraries as well. We can call them robotic drives also. So optical jukeboxes are robotic drives also. We can call them like this. So this is all about the storage structure that we have. And as I have told you, on the top of the hierarchy of these structure is always the primary memory. Then if you go down to the layer, the middle layer is consisting of the secondary storage. And finally, the last layer, the base of this hierarchy, consists of the tertiary storage. So we have already seen this hierarchy, and on the various parameters we have arranged this hierarchy. As I've told you, there is access time, there is speed it is, which is related to all these devices. Then we have the expensive nature of the devices that we can have. So all these parameters, using these parameters, we have made this hierarchy. So this is all about the storage structure in today's class. Now I'm quickly going to share some of the MCQs with you. Let us just see if you can self-assess yourself on the basis of this. here are the MCQs that you can see to assess yourself. Here's the second question: to access the services of the operating system, the interface is provided by the. Now, while you self-assess yourself, let me just take up your attendance.
हेलो।
हाँ सौरभ,
टेस्ट
यू
कर
कैन
देंगे
लीड।
हम?
हाँ हाँ, यू पीपल कैन लीड।
प्लीज।
मैम शोभित का नेट